Welcome back to the show, people. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you all. There's been so much good feedback lately. Really gets me fired up, gets me psyching, as Jamie O'Brien would say. Okay, on today's show, I have Josh Hickey, straight out of the T-Dot, the 6, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, a fellow Canadian. He is just a really, really good dude. If any of you guys watched my live with 1980 Something Co. a few months ago, where we sold off the Hookups collection, I put out an open call to see who would send me their kickflip photos, or kickflip videos, sorry. And he sent me the best one, and I'm going to post it right now. Kickflipping on a sunny day in Toronto, weed plants in buckets. He's wearing his Jordan 1s. He jumps in the pool. I think there's more things that are cool about this video, but you watch it and be the judge yourself. Anyway, we get into all kinds of cool stuff on this episode. He's a musician, so he toured. He was on the Warped Tour, which is super rad. We talk about that. We talk about how he started picking and getting into vintage on the road with his band. But mainly this episode is on investing. He's an avid, active investor. He does a lot of research. He does it every day. You know, probably even more than I do. Actually, a lot more than I do. And I think there's a lot of good knowledge in this. We're not advisors, do your own research. But if you're into investing and you want to learn something, we talk a lot about it on this episode. So stay tuned, but make sure you watch to the end because he shows us this super cool, crazy piece that he picked on his travels. And he actually got the provenance of where it was from. It's a piece owned by a musician. He tracked down the owner. He tracked down the designer. They gave him the story. It's super cool when you can actually get the history and the roots of a garment. And he did just that. So stay tuned to the end. That's at the very last segment. When we recorded this episode, the presidency was not yet called. We talk about that in this. But as of now, it is called. It's Biden and Harris, okay? Now, super stoked that Harris, a female, is vice president, the first female vice president in history. Super rad. We actually made a t-shirt on Frankie Collective to commemorate that. Go check it out. I'll actually put a picture right here. Link down below to buy that. But also Biden is very pro-planet. I'm not too political. I don't want to get deep into this. I'm a pretty open guy, but I am very stoked on Biden's environmental stance. He's getting back in the Paris climate accord or whatever that's called. He's pro clean energy, all these good things. And, I'm about it. So I hope that we can stay on the right track here and get back on track to saving the planet. I really, really do. I'm in lockdown. I'm halfway through lockdown right now. I've been home for a whole week. I've basically haven't left my house at all. I've been in my yard a bit. First week was rainy, but it was pretty sunny this weekend. So it's kind of hard to sit around when it's nice and sunny out. What have I been doing? I've been doing a lot of this crap. I've been sitting around. I've been getting stuff done that I don't normally get done. I've been, fixing the website, doing all kinds of different things that I normally never do. So it's been pretty productive, but still pretty boring. But I will say I spent a lot of time with my kids. It's been nice to be around. My son Jasper's 4 years old. He's super cute. And, when you go to work every day, you miss those moments. So it has been nice staying home. Okay, big news, big news. Me and Kirby, dead union. A hoser, and he's a bogan, and we are Hogan, the Hogan's Heroes, going live every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. So we are live every Tuesday night at 6 p.m., auctioning off pieces, telling stories, talking shit. Kirby is a hilarious dude. You do not want to miss this. You just don't want to miss this. Mark it on your calendars. Put an alarm on your phone right now. Hogan's Heroes, live Tuesday night, 6 p.m. And this one, we're actually doing no t-shirts. We're only auctioning off outerwear because we wanted to switch it up. There's so much t-shirts in the game right now. These two pieces right here. I got a Penguins Cocaine White starter. Sick. I have this crazy pink with a camo lining Carhartt. It looks a bit red on the video, but it's pink. Those are going up. Here's a couple more pieces going up Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Polo Bear denim. Early Polo Bear denim. Classic Chanel bomber. Power Rangers denim. I got this interesting NBA Europe Tour starter wool jacket. this Nike Anorak Center Swoosh 6 style. You don't see this kind of style windbreaker. And there's a bunch more stuff we got to auction off. Tuesday night, 6 p.m. with Dead Union. Mark it down. Put a reminder from now until the end of time to be there. Also, you want to be checking out my Patreon, guys. Like I said, I appreciate everyone supporting this show, okay? Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you learned something. But for as little as the price of a cup of coffee a month, the price of a cup of coffee a month, you can support me. It means a lot to me. It helps me get motivated to put out this content. But that's not all, folks. You get bonus content. I put up all the good shit on the Patreon. All the little tips and tricks. All the valuable things that you need to know. You know, if you're a freaking carpenter, you go apprentice with someone and you learn from a carpenter. You want to learn from someone in the business? Join the Patreon. And we're starting to do lives again, probably this week. Okay, we're going to start doing weekly Zoom calls. If you get on the Patreon, you can get on the weekly Zoom calls. You can ask questions. Everyone's there to help each other learn. It's going to be super dope. Link down below. Go check out the Patreon. I appreciate it big time. And on FasandFrankVintage.com right now, I put back on the make an offer function. Literally everything on the site. You can go, click the make an offer, tell us what you want to pay. Most likely we're going to accept it unless it's a real shitty lowball. Then we're going to deny your ass. But most likely we're going to accept it. So right now, for probably the next 48 hours, I have make an offer on FasandFrankVintage.com. Go check that out. Okay, without further ado. Oh, one more piece of news. Me and Jesse dropped the second episode of the Polo Archive. Go check out second episode of the Polo Archive. I'll put that down below. Also, the least you can do to support the show, please stop what you're doing right now. Stop. You can pause it. Go click the like button. Go add a comment down below. Subscribe to this channel. If you are listening on iTunes, please leave us a review. Give us a 5-star rating. Give us a review. Tell us what you think of the show, people. Let's go. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all. We got Josh Hickey straight out of Toronto. Here we go.
We got vintage clothing by the rack. Yeah. Just check out my Insta. How you gon' argue with that? Everything you see, I manifest. I'm an architect. I think I'ma run it back. We got vintage clothing by the rack. Just check out my Insta. How you gon' argue with that? Everything you see, I manifest. I'm an architect. I think I'll have some of that.
Hey, Josh, we're on, buddy.
We're here. We're doing it. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Fellow Canadian from across the country. How did you get started into the vintage game?
So, the biggest thing probably, I mean, like a lot of people on here, I grew up skateboarding. Like, that's, you see cool kids at the skate park wearing, like, whatever was sick at the time. I'm 28 now, so that was like, 05 to 010, where I was like big time skate rat, but also started going to local hardcore shows. I had a lot of older friends that were in that scene in Toronto and the GTA, Greater Toronto area. And I probably went to my first hardcore show in Stouffville, Ontario, when I was like probably 13.
That's such a random place, dude. Jesse's family's
man.
Up there, eh? You know that?
Really? It's funny, actually. My grandparents live near Jesse. I don't say where he lives, but in his neighborhood, which is funny.
Yeah, well, Jesse's family's in Stouffville, Julia's family, and that's a sleepy little town for a hardcore show, dude.
Buddy, it was, Latcham Hall. It was good. It was sick, though. So I had friends that were promoters, and they would, bands would come through and they would try and get them to come play a show in Stouffville. And everyone's like, man, I'm from Toronto. I got to go bus up to Stouffville to see this band or whatever. Yeah. But it was kind of one of the only venues outside of Toronto one where they would let us have shows every month. It was monthly shows. And two, that was like big enough for small hardcore shows are sick, but like this was a nice big hall, and I get there, and it's like the first time I see people moshing and like all that stuff, right? So I was really heavy into that scene growing up and through high school. So through that, like merch is just such a big thing, right? Like band tees, like, you know, at that point it wasn't vintage or anything, but a band would come through and I'd buy their shirt because I was like, these guys are sick. Like I want to, you know, show people that I'm sick.
And there's something about like if you're into a band, buying merch, it's about showing that you fuck with that band, but it's also about supporting that band, you know?
Oh, man, I'll touch on that in a sec because, you know, people probably realize a little more now than they did back then that people on bands on tour are not making money. Like, if they're lucky enough to be on a label or on lucky enough, whichever way you want to look at it, they've got a lot of hands in their pockets, and really their food money, gas money, pocket money is coming from merch sales. So that's like, I just started collecting this massive amount of t-shirts, which I kept them all, and kind of went from there. And then I started, you know, I've always been a musician. Like my grandpa was a drummer, gave me his old drum set when I was young, grew up playing drums, picked up guitar around that time, maybe 13. And just started like fucking around with friends and in their basements jamming. And, you know, we just kind of progressed. I'm not the best musician in the world, but like got it done. And it was just about like hanging with your buddies. And then, you know, and doing something like, I was straight edge at that time too, largely. So, or like for a large part of that time, I was straight edge for probably 5 years. So we're just like, well, we're not at the bars drinking every night. Like we're just like hanging out, skating or playing music or whatever, you know? So we started playing some more shows. We started playing around Toronto a lot, you know, lived at Sneaky D's and, you know, Hard Luck, a lot of these places, some of which aren't there anymore. And we kind of started to gain a bit of this is kind of the band, you know, this was like the old middle school age kind of band. And then towards the end of high school, some friends and us started kind of a more serious band. And we ended up kind of doing okay. And we did for probably from when I was maybe 19 or 20 to about 25, I'm 28 now, was pretty much full-time band touring. So we ended up, you know, we really grinded it out. It didn't come overnight, but we, you know, bought a van, put bunks in the back, drove across the U.S. multiple times. You know, we hit every state, lost money on every tour, just kept grinding because we loved it, right? I was like, oh, like, what the fuck else am I going to do? After high school, I went to University of Guelph, dropped out after a semester because I was like, what am I going to do with a sociology degree? I ended up going to photo school, which is kind of always also kind of where things started. But anyway, with the music thing, we ended up getting picked up by a label called Side One Dummy in California, and then a label here in Toronto called New Damage. They're kind of associated with Dynalone, which is you know, City and Color and that kind of vibe in Toronto. And then I was just on the road a lot, so pretty much six months a year we were touring. And then 2016, our label got us on Warped Tour, which was big for us. And anyone, like I was just saying, like I was just watching your sweatshirt video, and you had a couple like the 97 Warped and the 2000 or 03 or something. Like it was that totally, like I went to probably 3 or 4 Warped Tours when I was a kid, and to be able to play the whole thing was just like was surreal. It was
yeah. So speak to that a bit. I went to one Warped Tour, like I said in that video, 2005. I think it was at Thunderbird Stadium at UBC. But this is so late. Like, well, I guess that would have been the era you were playing Warped Tour, 2005 or
no, 16. We played 16.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, dude, like 4 years ago. Yeah.
So, what are the vibes in 2016 at Warped Tour? Like, is it still heavy skate influence?
I mean, they want it to be, you know. There were a few dates where they had the skate ramp there still, which was sick. And a lot of the band dudes that were there skated. So like there was a lot of parking lot skating and stuff, and definitely the vibe within the bands was that for sure. But the demographic of Warped Tour now have shifted so much from, you know, punk or you know, punk rockers, whatever you want to call them back in the day, and, you know, whatever term you want to call them now. It just doesn't look the same as it did, right? The demographics, and it's a lot of pop punk on there, which is you know, brings a lot of, you know, high school girls because that's their vibe, and it's you know, listenable stuff. But yeah.
So what bands were on tour with you in 16?
So we had the biggest one was Sum 41. They were dope. They're from Ajax, so just 15 minutes from me. So we would shoot the shit with them. Really nice guys. They it was funny. This was the time when scooters were just starting to take off, like Lime scooters and whatever. So I remember Derek had a security guard at Warp, and he would just ride around the campus or like to the like food tent or whatever on his scooter with his massive security guard behind him on his own scooter. It's hilarious.
Nice. Yeah, you can't be intimidated by a bodyguard on a scooter. It's just not possible.
You can't, right? Yeah, I know. So I think them and us were the only Canadian bands on it that year. So we spent Canada Day with them. Like that was cool. And I'm trying to think who else is even on it that year.
Yeah, they're big. Like, to be honest, I didn't even know they were Canadian. That's cool.
You know, me and so many people my age, one of my biggest influences back in the day, them and Blink and like that whole thing, right? So Billy Talon, and Good Charlotte was on it also that year in 16, which was funny. And I looked over, I was watching them one set. I don't think they played the whole tour, but you know, if you're there in a band, you can watch sets from side stage, and you don't have to be in the crowd. So I was standing there watching their set one day, and I look over and Cameron Diaz is next to me. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Like I don't know if it's Josh Madden or whatever is like dating him. What a trip this is. Like I'm on Warped Tour in California, standing next to Cameron Diaz. Like
that's so random.
Just like weird.
You know what's funny? She was at a party that I went to not even that long ago because she's dating that guy you said.
One of the Maddens. Yeah,
and then Madden is also the brother of Madden is like in X Large and kind of in vintage and like in streetwear. Yeah. So she was at this party I was at round 2 on Melrose.
Yeah.
And like I had a huge crush on her, dude. You know, like back in the day. Come on.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know. It's funny how things work out. It's just like, this is how like I got to be in the room with Cameron Diaz. Like, you know, I'm not a big like starstruck guy, but that was kind of funny.
Yeah. So I want to talk about straight edge for a second. So you said you were straight edge for 5 years, which is weird because not weird, but a lot of people go straight edge for like they're fucking diehard and they do it for like life choice forever, right? So why did you do it? Was it like a band thing? Was it a scene thing? What's the deal?
Yeah, largely a scene thing. I've never been, even still, like I'm not a big drinker. It just wasn't my vibe. Like I, you know, had a lot of anxiety and stuff growing up, and that just like didn't help. And I was like, well, this scene I just like, you know, became a part of has these cool guys that are like, you know, they don't do drugs, they don't drink, they're proud of it, living a clean, healthy life, adamant about it. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be a lame thing that I don't want to drink at this party or whatever, you know? So yeah, largely a scene thing, and personal choice, of course, but you know, there are a lot of people that would like not be stoked on, you know, breaking edge is like a thing, and it was, you know, back in the day, people get thrown under the bus as fucking poser, like broke edge, whatever. It's like, man, like whatever works for you at that time in your life, like that was cool. It's not like I stopped being straight edge to get fucked up and like all that, but I'm just like, it got to a point where I was like, oh, I wouldn't mind a beer with my buddy here, but I'm feeling restricted by this personal choice I've like set myself to. And that's just a silly thing when it's really like, I don't know.
I hear you, man. I hear you, man. Totally. And I think I'm on and off drinker myself now, but at that point, when I was that age in my life, like heavy drinker, heavy partier, probably if someone passed me some drugs, I'd probably 50% of the time say yes. So, and then again, for me, the choice to not drink now in my life has come down to, like anxiety and, trying to accomplish more with my time and not, have a clear mind, because I think it does clear your mind having no substances.
For sure.
So, I feel that, but you're right. It is, I don't call myself straight edge. I'm not like I'm straight edge now or anything like that. It's just like, I'm not drinking right now and we'll see what happens.
Exactly. It's like, this is working for me right now and there's no label. It's just like, this is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
It's good for me. So.
Okay. So let's bring it back into vintage. So obviously you're on tour, you have some free time, you're not drinking, you're probably hitting the thrifts.
100%. Yeah. I'm hitting thrifts in every city we go to. We were in a different city every single day. We drove overnight. So, we'd be in, Nebraska. We'd find record store. We just have an afternoon to kill. And then we play the show and then we leave. So we'd go find record stores. I collected records for a long time. And that was like before, like I like t-shirts. I like cool t-shirts. I always thrifted growing up, but just for like a flannel or just like, I don't know, some quirky shit you find, right? And I started going to record stores and I was like, oh damn, like they have some cool like old shit in some of these. I remember like I bought a Nevermind, like an OG Nevermind Nirvana tee from this record store in Nebraska in like 2015 probably or something for like $12.
Dude, the hype beast out there listening right now are rolling, dude.
I know. It's like, it is what it is, right? It's like, one, nobody knows. Like, fuck, man. Maybe somebody says they could have predicted what's happening right now in vintage, but they're probably a liar.
Totally.
It's fuck. I needed $50 then. That t-shirt, I was like, $50 for a t-shirt. Like I paid $12. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
But, so from there, I started designing. So I have a graphic design and photo background, so I started designing all our merch, or at least concepts, and giving it to a graphic designer who's better than me or whatever. And I just got super into the design of tees from there. And I would just try and find like unique pieces of like whatever. Like I didn't really care as long as I was just like, oh, that's sick. Like I'm probably not going to see that again. Or like nobody's probably going to see that again because it's just like a random one-off, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, from there you start, and I'll get into this with stock too, but you start buying what you know and what you like. Right. So that for me was band tees and, hardcore bands. And then, whatever cycle of genres I was listening to at the time. And from there, it just kind of grew and grew. And it became a little side hustle, among other things I would do while I was home from tour or on the road or whatever. And that was the whole thing. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, we weren't making money like in the band. That's not that was a pure like, well, fuck, I'm in my early 20s. Like, yeah, I'll go tour Europe and like not make a dime, but that's awesome. Cool.
So like when you say not making money, your label paid your expenses. You got to have a trip. You got to have some amazing life experiences. But like at the end of it all, you come home, you're right where you started.
100%. No, not like I never got a check from the label. Like it's not how it works really. Like we, it's not like we were selling millions of copies or anything either, but it's, again, like the money we made was our show guarantee and our merch, but like largely merch. It's sad how much touring bands have to depend on that.
So question. So this is an interesting topic to get into on a vintage level. So you go to a show, say Warped Tour, right? Mm-hmm, and obviously they're going to throw your merch. Would they throw your merch in Warped Tour booths or no?
They didn't do that anymore when I was on tour. So you're right. Like festivals usually is just like a merch booth. And that's what Warped used to do. But on this, everyone had their own tent. So we brought a merch guy with us that we paid nothing, but we said, hey, you get to come on Warped. So, so we had a big pop-up tent with our logo on it and stuff like every other band did. And, he'd get up at 7 a.m. every day, find out what city we're in, go to headquarters, see where we're supposed to place our tent that day, and then go from there. And then you sit out in 120-degree heat all day in Arizona or whatever, trying to sell merch. Like,
Yeah, fucking loving life. Stoked to be on tour. But then,
100%.
so would it be 100% of the sales go to you guys on those merch tents?
No, not at Warped. No, I forget what their cut was. I don't even want to speculate. It was like somewhere in the 15 or 25% range or something.
Yeah, okay. But if you're playing a tour where you're just playing, say, smaller venue bars and stuff, 100% merch goes to you.
Usually. There are some venues that want to cut, and they'll count you in and count you out, meaning they have a guy that counts your shirts when you get in and he counts your stock when you leave. And we're just like, okay, we're not like, we're just trying to survive to get into the next city here. Like, if you really got to stick your hands in our pockets, like, you know, make it quick and get it in our face or whatever. But for the most part, we kept 100% of. And
say like you did a show, say you're on a private tour, you do a show or you're with a couple other bands at a small venue. Like what kind of merch sales could you expect?
Largely depends on the city. And it's funny because a lot of the time, the smaller cities, you do way better in merch because they don't get shows. Like when they get shows, you know, in Lincoln, Nebraska, or in like Ottawa was some of the best shows we've ever played were in Ottawa. Nice. They just don't get bands that come through. So when they do, they're just like, hell yeah, I'll support. I'll buy like all your shit. So
that's awesome.
Like anywhere from like $100 on a bad night, you know, probably not more than 500, 600, 700 max on a good night. Like,
yeah,
you know, we're charging 10 to 15 per t-shirt and they cost us probably 7 or 8 to make. So like the margins aren't, you know, it's funny now because the vintage game, the margins are, you know, different than that depending on how you source and all that. But it's like looking at that, it's like, gee, that's just not a good business model. Like
it's so crazy that they're that cheap, you know, even like a cheap brand t-shirt, you're looking at like $30 now, you know, and
for sure.
It's insane.
I go to shows now, not anymore. I miss them, but and it's like fucking $40 for like a local band's t-shirt. It's like, but I get it. It's like, well, fuck, like we gotta. It's like this is what everyone else is charging, and like we're broke. I feel for a lot of people in the industry still. I got out of it a few years ago, and you know, I know a lot of guys that are rely on tour managing and playing shows to make a living, and they did well. And now it's just there's no. Like
that industry got hit the hardest, man. And then the club scene, the nightlife, any like hospitality stuff is tough.
Yeah, tough. It's tough. So it's all about reassessing and rearranging the way you need to live your life going forward. You know, and I'll touch on all this, but we're in a midst of a massive paradigm shift, right? That's clear, and the more you can prepare yourself and expect things, the better obviously you'll be when you know, I'm not saying shit's gonna hit the fan, it very well could, but just things in general. You just have to accept that the world is changing in these ways and make your life the best possible based on these new
and
changes.
Also, you know, I talk about this a lot, but taking steps now that are gonna pay off, say 5 years down the road,
man, instead
of worrying about that one t-shirt right now. It's like, you know, you got to at least put some energy into the future,
dude,
for the big payout.
Like, oh man, we're in the world of instant gratification, right? Like, you know, boom, dopamine hit, t-shirt in the mail, dopamine hit. And it's hard for people to see all these things going for so much money and think about long-term, you know? But I promise the things going for that now aren't going to be in the future, and things that are going for nothing now, you're going to go, how the fuck is that worth $400 or whatever, right? Like, it's sick. Like, I don't have to tell you. I probably got that from hearing you say it. It's vintage is cyclical, and you don't see people out there buying leathers anymore and all that, right? So it's
so let's bring it into now. So you are obviously through the band, through touring, you got your bug, you got your vintage side hustle going, and like, you know, bring us up to speed to what you do now as far as like, is this your full-time gig? Like, are you 100% in?
I'm 100% in about 3 gigs. So I'm So I have a little, I started in 2014, probably a little patch and pin business. It was actually supposed to be a skate zine that I started. It's called Future Zine. Never became a zine. I made these patches that just took off. They hit the front page of Reddit one day, and I woke up and I sold 10,000 of them.
No way.
Yeah, dude, it was fucked. And I was
that is literally, I love that. So that's like literally a case of like, putting yourself in the right position, but somewhat dumb luck, viral.
Oh, yeah, of course. You got to have luck. Like any billionaire will tell you, you can ask them, not a billionaire, how much of your success do you attribute to luck? A lot of them say 90%. Like you got to get a little lucky.
Yeah.
But you got to
explain this.
Luck,
explain
right?
this. So you made patches. Like, are they again influenced from your like punk days and stuff?
Yeah, totally. I have one of them here. This isn't the one that sold a bunch, but this is the one I designed a while back. Come back with a warrant.
Oh, nice.
Things like that, right? It's a little soft goods business. I had pins too. Still do. I switched it all entirely to Amazon FBA now. I'm completely hands off. Yeah. I ship them my inventory directly from China, and I don't see the patches anymore. That being said, I shipped 25,000 orders by hand in envelopes over the past few years. So like I put my work in, and now I'm like, I'll take a little less margin for my time to focus on other things like vintage and stocks and whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's super smart. I think people need to get on board with that. The only scalable business growth happens if you can free up your time, free up your hands to be working on growth instead of working on shipping.
Man, 100%. Like one of the biggest things I've written down here is like the most important asset forever, always is time. Like it's the only thing in the end that really matters, and you manage everything around that.
Yeah, and that comes back to like the 80-20 rule. There's so much about that. But you just paid a little more money to have a lot more free time.
I'll take that every day. So that was kind of what kept me, having an income while I was touring, and then I'd be home from tour, and I worked on photo sets as well. For years, for probably 3 years, as a photo assistant and kind of a camera B guy and whatever else. And then did the patch thing also, and then really wanted to free up enough time for vintage. So I dropped the photo thing. So right now vintage is probably 80% of my time. Really what I'm trying to focus on and build. And, I don't know what the future looks like for my vintage TO and the vintage game, but like, there's so many people coming into it. That's cool. Like I welcome the competition, or the more people, like the more people that get into this. A lot of people are pissed off about it, right? And they're just like, but I've been in this longer than you. And it's like, all right, like that's cool. But isn't this overall a net positive of more people being in the, recycling clothing game? It's like, if you really actually are going to preach giving a shit about that in the world and fast fashion and all that, it's like you probably can't also be mad about all these people starting to sell vintage or get into the game or whatever. It's like there's gotta be buyers too. I get that, but
if you want to make a big change, it's like you can exactly if you're going to preach about it, if you're not going to be the guy that takes it to distributing used clothing to the world, then you can't be mad about somebody else coming in and helping that mission get accomplished, because that is the mission. It's wild. And that comes up a lot. And you're right. And I'm making more money right now than I was before all the people came in. So sure, I can be like, yes, some little bits of the business are getting a little tougher, but also like a lot of them are getting a lot easier. I can sell a t-shirt in a fucking heartbeat right now for stupid amounts of money. Where I never could. I used to have to hustle hard to sell those t-shirts.
Yeah. And that's the harder thing. Like if you can sell $30 t-shirts, just like the non-hype shit, over and over and over, that is so much more impressive than selling a t-shirt for $600. It's like, well, fucking, that doesn't take any effort. Like, that's not impressive. That doesn't show me like your business acumen or anything, That's just like I don't blame you. That's great. Awesome.
Yeah, but that's the low-hanging fruit.
Not the hardest.
It takes the marketing skills. It takes real hustle. It takes building an audience for something that nobody else can sell. And I've been looking into this more lately. When you think about business, I watch Shark Tank sometimes. Actually, I don't watch it that much, but I watched a couple episodes. But one thing that stuck out to me on Shark Tank was when they're looking to buy a business, they're like, well, what is your proprietary asset? Okay. Now, a lot of people in the vintage business don't have any proprietary asset. They're like, I buy a hype tee, I sell a hype tee. Now, a proprietary asset means like that somebody else can't come in and do what you do. But if you just buy a hype tee and sell a hype tee, anybody can come in and do that. But if you built a huge audience that will buy $20 tees and you're making thousands of dollars a day, that's your audience is your proprietary asset, right?
Right.
Your ability to sell that something that product that nobody else can sell becomes a proprietary asset. So the successful people think on those terms instead of just like, again, that's kind of thinking on the long-term side of things than the instant gratification side of things. But the proprietary asset thing really got me thinking. And I'm like, it's all about developing that. It could be your sourcing is proprietary. It could be whatever you make is proprietary. Your brand is proprietary. Your audience is proprietary. But like in the vintage game, it's trickier to have those assets.
But also think ahead. Like if you're living like day to day of this tea's hot today, like I got to sell this today, whatever. It's not gonna work out as well in the long run. And if you're not thinking about the long run, like you're fucking up. Like there's never been a more important time than right now in human history to think about the long run, or a more appropriate time to plan your life out and make the changes you want. Right? Like I've mentioned to you briefly, but like my girlfriend and I are thinking about maybe moving out west. Like we like it a lot out there, and we've talked about Kelowna. We have some friends in Squamish, but these are the things that are accelerated because of COVID, right? It's like there are a lot of people. There's a big exodus from major cities to the suburbs to the in my opinion, land has never been more valuable, right? There's not literally in a dollar sense, but I mean going forward, I think the value of land is going to be huge because people are just going, I don't want to be crammed in a office building anymore. Like, this isn't a secret. They talk about this all the time, but it's, my point is that COVID accelerates these things. And if you're not adjusting now, you're going to get caught and you're going to get left behind.
I had on that same note, I had a conversation this morning. I dropped my son at school and I bumped into a good friend of mine who is a mortgage broker who's helped me in the past get mortgages. And he's kind of my advisor on property investing and different things. And we were chatting about it and he was giving me some good tips on some towns. Cause when he starts getting calls day in, day out for like certain towns to buy, it's like, you're like, okay, this town's fucking hot. And it is small towns right now. Everybody wants to get out of the cities. If you kind of are naive and just kind of green to the whole industry, you might think because of COVID, property values are going to drop because there's less money circulating around, but it's not the case. Like certain zones might get stagnant, like inner city stuff, but then all the small towns and space, like you said, is actually booming. And projections are it's going to continue to boom because the government is like keeping these interest rates super low. Well,
that's the thing. It's like interest rates have never been lower. Some European countries are in negative interest rates already. They pay you to take money from them. It's like U.S. has already said that their interest rates are staying close to zero for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve said that. It's people are going, oh yeah, okay, like it's kind of now or never if I want to buy. Like there's never been at least a more attractive time to get into, or a lower barrier to entry.
Barrier of entry, yeah. And there's probably a whole nother side to that where there's people out there saying you're crazy because this is what the government wants. They want to get you debted and they want to do this and borderline conspiracy theories on it. The inflation thing is an interesting thing because the whole interest rate thing is they're keeping it low, but they've said we're going to allow inflation to do what it has to do, which go above. Typically, inflation is a 2 to 3% per year. But they're saying we're just going to let it rip.
Yeah.
I've been trying to study inflation more over the last, since COVID, basically, because, it affects everything. It affects, we're going to get into that more with investing, but it affects the price of bread. It affects your rent.
Oh, my God.
The price you pay for an employee. So what's your thoughts on that? And do you know much about that?
I do, yeah. So I like my metals and I like my commodities. So I follow gold price really closely, and gold price is affected very closely by interest rates and inflation and all that. So right now they're worried more about deflation than inflation. The US, the Fed, is trying to hit their 2% inflation mark for this year because they think deflation could be more detrimental in the short term to their economy and to the general people. So, yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay, I haven't even heard that theory yet, so that's rad. But then deflation essentially means that prices across the board for products and our everyday expenses are going to get cheaper.
I don't want to fuck this up because there's another thing called stagflation, which I'm trying to. Deflation is the reduction of general price levels in the economy, but it's also. I'm gonna fuck this up probably, but it's also the devaluing of your money, right? Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna get into it that much and talk about some shit I don't know.
Well, wouldn't it be opposite? Because inflation, prices go up, meaning the value of your dollar goes down in comparison. If prices go down, the value of your dollar goes up. So it's inflation of currency value, no?
Right. So the scary thing being people aren't going to be able to afford anything. Right. But right now, what we're seeing is called stagflation. And again, I'm just learning. I haven't said this yet. I haven't said my, Surgeon's General warning or whatever, but I'm not an economist. I don't have an MBA. I don't have a business degree. None of this is investment advice. This is just, I like vintage.
This is just
I
two
like
guys
self-investing. This is just two guys exactly
shooting the shit about what we've learned.
Stagflation happens when you have inflation, meaning a low dollar, right? Today, the dollar, I'm watching it right now because it affects gold huge. Today, the dollar's at 92.2 cents. Like, and it's down 0.5% today alone. Like, your dollar is worth 0.5 less.
Oh, that's the dollar against what, though? The dollar against...
That's just the dollar index. So that's the dollar's inherent value. If they can get to this inflation rate that they're trying for, we're looking at stagflation, which is inflation plus low GDP plus a high rate of unemployment. Or I'm clearly reading this, but recession in most economic activities and poor implementation of government policy. It's a situation where, the inflation rate is high, the economic growth rate slows, and unemployment remains steadily high. Right. So that looks like where they're heading, kind of. Right. This happened in the 70s. Don't want to pretend like I know what I'm talking about too much more than that on the, general inflation and currencies and all that. But you're right. It's something to consider and go, I don't trust the US dollar at all right now. Like, a lot of people just think, well, I'm just going to take out some cash and put it away. And, that's my safekeeping. Okay, fine. But that cash is going to lose value almost certainly while you have it there. So it's just better off to put your savings away, put something in that's going to work for you, right? That's simple.
Yes, your cash devalues itself. And the basic principle is inflation, like we just said. It's why a loaf of bread probably cost 30 cents in the 70s and now costs you like $5.50 or something, right? And that $20 you put under your mattress in 20 years might only buy you a loaf of bread or whatever it would be. There is kind of like a lot of theories about how much you should hold in cash. You should have like an emergency fund, probably
100%,
enough cash to like get you through like a couple months of life expenses at least. So, I mean, you can look that up, like the divide, but in a general sense, having like all your assets in cash right now is losing.
It's a losing bet. You're better off putting in a savings account in your bank that earns you, 0.2% interest or whatever. But you have to let your money work for you. And if you're not, like, the best time to start doing that is yesterday, right? Especially if you're young, your risk tolerance is probably a little higher if you've got more years to fuck up and lose your whole account. I've done that. Like, you got to do that now. You can be more aggressive. You can have more growth stocks and value stocks. You don't really want, and I'll go over those differences.
I gotta say what you just said is the best time to invest is yesterday. This is an ancient Chinese proverb. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Right now, yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. 100%.
Yeah.
It's, I hope if anyone takes anything from this podcast, it's that. It's like, just do it now. It's not hard. Like, start learning. I'm completely self-taught in this, and like, by no means am I I'm just a guy that likes to do it and supplement my income this way, hopefully, and plan for my future, right? That's the big thing. I'm self-employed. I've been self-employed almost my whole life, right? I've been flipping things since high school. I had a proxy in Japan in like 2008 that I would bid on Yahoo Japan auctions of old Supreme that like I didn't give a shit about then, which is kind of surprising, and resell it here. That was like kind of the
You might be the first one on the show to bust out the Yahoo Japan. There's a lot of tips and tricks about buying in other markets and reselling in America for sure.
For sure. And back in that day, like there was not many people doing that in 08, 09, like 10, whatever. There were these services, these proxy services that were relatively cheap, and it's just like, holy shit, like there are so many gems on this auction site that I have to translate from Japanese every page, whatever.
Yeah, totally.
But it's it was a cool time.
Well, the spoils come to those who put in the work, Man,
you got to put in the work. Like I overheard once while I was sourcing, man, that looks like a lot of work. I wouldn't want that job. Like literally 2 weeks ago, I was like,
yeah,
that's perfect. Like that's exactly the job I want. The one that people aren't willing to put the work in to do, because it can be a really good way to make a living if you're willing to put the work in, but it's not going to be handed to you. And, hopefully people realize that, and they gotta, I don't know, think ahead.
And that goes for the vintage game. That goes for this investing game. It's like there's so many people out there nerding out so hard on vintage right now, and t-shirts especially. It's like, if you just put some of that energy into nerding out about investing, dude, you'd be a fucking master,
Man, I know. It's like, I only started actively trading maybe 4 years ago. When I was 18, we had like a family friend that was an accountant. I put some money with him, not a lot or anything. But you just have to be willing to learn. It's not that difficult. Like, give yourself some credit, pick up a few books. I have a few here. Like, all right, Wealthy Barber. This is the sequel. I don't even think I have. It's good. I don't think it'll tell you maybe anything you don't know, but it's, but this is kind of like the Bible in my sense of investing, right? The Intelligent Investor, Benjamin Graham. It's a tough read. It's a tough read, but it really gives you the fundamentals and the understanding of markets and how simple investing can be, even though it seems kind of counterintuitive to what I just said. It's a big, wordy book, but investing doesn't have to be complicated. It can be a set it and forget it. It's just have it. So just do it. Give yourself, the chance.
Totally. And one thing I like to think about, it's like, you look at Warren Buffett, you look at these super crazy investors. There you go.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett on business. And you're like, he's just a dude. He's just a guy. It's not like he was born with some like exponential brain capacity. He's just a
dude from Nebraska.
Yeah. He nerded out on it. He was smart. He made good decisions because he took the time to like do his research. And if they can do it, you can do it. I can do it. It can be done.
100%. 100%. And, I really feel that the age of paying, a financial advisor 3% to earn you 7 to 10% annually are coming to an end. The barrier to entry is so much lower now with apps, Robinhood in the States, no commission trading. In Canada, we have Wealthsimple with no commission trading. I like Questrade. The barrier, it's literally, you just download. You don't have to put a minimum in your account. You put however much you want. You can buy fractional shares. So if you're like, I want to buy Google, but it's trading at $1,700 or whatever, it'd be like, I can buy 1/10 of a share of Google. And
you can do that on Wealthsimple and Questrade?
I don't think Wealthsimple. No, I don't think we can do that in Canada at all. But on Robinhood, you can.
Yeah, I even saw, when I was in the States last time, I saw a TV commercial saying they call it like slices. You can buy slices of shares from all these different brokerage now. So they are doing that heavy.
The market crashed in March, and we saw it do nothing but go up since, right? There was such a massive influx of new money into the market. Retail money, meaning Main Street, Wall Street versus Main Street. Retail meaning the average person down, starting to buy some stocks.
You mentioned you are into your precious metal commodities.
Yeah.
So what is it about gold and metals that you like? And somebody who's starting into this, like, why should they invest?
There are differing sides to this, of course. And I know Jeremy from Personal Finance Club came on, isn't a fan of gold. Understandable. Like, I get it. But I don't think it's fair to compare, for example, gold to the S&P 500. They're not the same. Like, gold traditionally has been a store of wealth. If it goes up, great. That's why I like gold. It's a place where, it can go down, but I'm willing to bet it's not going to in the long term too much because of all the money being printed. It's the only kind of decentralized, that and Bitcoin, if you want to call Bitcoin decentralized. I have some of that too. It's a way to not hold fiat currency. Fiat meaning like a made up government currency, essentially, the US dollar. The US went off the gold standard, meaning a dollar was backed by gold in the 70s, 72 or 4 or something. So since then, money is not backed by anything. And it's essentially nothing. Like, they just print more and more and more of it digitally now. There are interviews.
So essentially, money is the value that we attribute it in our own minds and life. It
has no intrinsic value, right? That's the term. So there's no intrinsic value. There's nothing proprietary about it, right? There's nothing. It's not backed by anything. If the dollar crashes, you have nothing that it's backed by, And when they just keep printing and printing and printing, and there's more stimulus coming, it's just I want to have some of that. Like, I want to have some of my money in a relatively stable place that, it also, like, having physical metals, silver is a lower barrier to entry for sure. I think silver is around 25 or 30 an ounce right now, whereas gold's 1900 and something. But I also can't sell it at the click of a button. It takes my reaction or my emotions out of it, which is kind of a protecting me from myself kind of thing. I've lost money and I've left a lot of money on the table by selling too soon or just not sticking to my original game plan of investing with stocks. And I see, I was down a lot. And okay, here's an example. This week has been the craziest trading week of my life. And for most people, because it's been a volatile, this is the election week. I don't know when this is uploaded, but it's November 6th today. So 2 days ago, I was heavy in gold miners, which I like. They pay a dividend. They just increased their dividends because they had an unreal quarter. But if you want to invest in gold, but still have equities, be a part owner of a company, but you don't want to just buy a rock, right? A piece of metal.
So you're talking about Barrick.
So I like Barrick a lot. Barrick had earnings yesterday. They crushed it. They have, Mark Bristow is their CEO, and he's the OG in the gold mining industry. He's the South African dude, no bullshit. He's a solid CEO. And so I've liked Barrick for a long time based on that. But there are gold miner ETFs, which are a basket of, I know you know what an ETF, but it's a basket of companies that someone puts together, and you can buy one share of this ETF and it gives you, however many companies are in that. So GDX is a gold miner ETF. GDXJ is junior gold miners, which junior versus senior is just dependent on the amount of ounces they pull out of the ground each year. So I think Barrick is upwards of 2 million ounces a year. And they're more stable, they're less volatile than some juniors. But anyway, I had a bunch of money in junior miners. I had options, so I'll talk about options in a minute, and they're super risky and can be very dumb. Almost blew up my account 2 days ago. Had the worst day I've ever had. The next day, they ripped 10%, and I had the best day I ever had. That was yesterday. So overall, the week, I'm a little up, but could I have ever been down? It's, that's something I want to talk about big time, is risk management and assessing your own risk, having a plan, sticking to it.
So just to touch on this gold thing again, for people that have never done it or have no info on it, you basically can buy physical gold. You can buy physical gold from a pawnbroker, or like they're called a bullion exchange.
Yeah,
Something like
bullion
that.
dealers. Yeah, totally. It's
Um,
hard. The premiums are really high right now in physical because there's a shortage because everyone wants physical. But yeah,
Can you buy it at the bank? I've never bought it at the bank.
I've never bought it at the bank either. I know, like, you can buy directly from the mint, like mint.ca, but it's not so much bullion. It's more of like they have collectors, coins, and limited edition things. You know, people.
But most of
that.
that stuff, still, you're only paying the actual gold value, right? You're not paying like the collectible value on that, are you?
On the stuff from the mint, they hike up huge for like the collectible.
So you gotta watch the service fees if you're buying physical gold, and you gotta try to. Obviously, it's like anything, you got to try to buy it for the best price. And then there's obviously the ETF, which is the basket of gold companies. They're mining companies. There's Barrick, which is its own mining company, which is like the biggest one.
They're up there. Them and Newmont are probably the two biggest. They also have a joint mine together. NEM is Newmont's symbol. GOLD, gold, is Barrick's symbol.
So also, just to touch on this a bit more, all the research I've done, you know, I listened, basically Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki got me into investing in the beginning. He's big on gold. He probably, I don't even know how much gold that guy has, but he has a lot of gold.
A lot.
And he buys physical gold. He's going, and I remember when he first started talking about Bitcoin on his podcast, wasn't even a long time ago. Now he's got a shitload of it. And, you know, he basically, there's a lot of people that say as a part of your total portfolio, gold should be around 10%. Again, we're not advising you on that. We're just telling you what we've heard. But that's kind of where I go with it. I'm kind of like, I'm going to buy physical gold up to about 10% and hold. And again, there's theories too that the gold reacts differently to the market. So if you have like all your money in stocks and the stock market's crashing, gold typically holds through that time.
Awesome.
So like it can be a safe bet against other areas to balance you out as part of like a more balanced portfolio.
For sure. Diversification, right? You absolutely want to have some metals in your account. Just like you said, 10%, great. Like that's up to, you know, people's own tolerance and opinions and all that. But yeah, I think you need something in your account that if everything crashes, it's going to have a better chance of staying high. That being said, gold crashed in March when everything crashed. And that was significant because literally everything crashed. Like the dollar crashed, gold crashed, stocks crashed. It was like bond yields crashed. It's like, where the fuck do I put my money? You know, when literally everything is like, oh, I'll just keep cash. Well, that's a losing trade too.
Hopefully you had cash, and hopefully investors had enough cash to withstand that. But a lot of people who are too leveraged, they crash because they're starting to pull their money. I luckily didn't pull shit during that period. I just let it ride. And my thing was like, I'm gonna put more in. Like if you're a long-term investor, you should look at a crash like not about the money you lost, but about the potential you can make on putting more money in.
100%. That was the buying opportunity of a lifetime. And I'll be the first to say, I didn't buy that dip. I wish I bought at the bottom. I wish I bought tech. Like, it's been an unbelievable run to all-time highs now in the NASDAQ and S&P and all of that, largely tech stocks. And people think it's unjustified. I don't think it's unjustified that much. This huge run up in tech stocks, like, just like everything else, COVID accelerated tech. Huge.
Time.
Like you saw the rotation into COVID stocks when it all happened, right? So that's Netflix, Zoom, Peloton, video game stocks, Activision, RIP, stuff like that, right? So, you know, consumer staples, Costco, things like that. But since then, tech has become so much more part of our lives. It's 100%
necessary,
right? Like
I got in Zoom at the beginning and I cashed out. I cashed out a bit early, but I was like, well, you know what? I made some money. I'm good.
Nobody went broke taking the profit. That's what they say.
Exactly. And that's another thing. You can't be like, you know, you can't be too emotional. And if you go out early, at least you got out instead of you never know what's going to happen. Basically, this is also from Robert Kiyosaki, but you will never hit the bottom. You will never buy on the bottom. And you will never sell on the top. So you should just be happy with buying, for selling at all higher than you bought. And that's the fucking truth.
100%. Like that trade I was telling you about with my gold miners this week, I broke even yesterday made a little and sold. It was way too much for my portfolio. If I held yesterday, I would have made $5,000 on it. And I'm like, oof, like, all right. I was talking to my girlfriend last night and I was like, fuck, like this sucks. I'm kind of gutted. And she's like, what about last night when you were like down 72% on these and these just let me get out, break even? It's like, okay, yeah. You like, point being, you're not going to nail the bottom. You're not going to nail the top. If you make profit, fucking awesome. You're doing it right. Like if it's $5 profit, okay. The other thing is like, if you're nervous to sell, if you're up and you're nervous to take money, what keeps going, then you can buy it back. You can always buy it back. That's the whole thing. If you sell, okay, great. You've locked in your profits. If you still want to be in, you can buy it back or take out your initial cost and just let it ride with essentially free shares or whatever.
Yeah, that's what there's definitely a school of thought that does that play. One thing you mentioned the tech stocks. I actually invested in a tech ETF that has just crushed, man. And it's like, again, the ETF.
What is it?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but I will. Yeah. I'll send it to you and I'll put it on here. And it's definitely safer than investing in one single tech stock because it follows the whole tech market, which is all those things you mentioned: Zoom, Tesla, whatever. And but do we think tech is going to slow down? That's the question here. I don't. Some of these
hard,
might level out.
Yeah. If it, I bought Apple today. So I went long Apple this morning. I'm super bullish on Apple. They have a new MacBook coming out in a couple of weeks. There's a few catalysts coming up, but tech itself is hard. Like it's as a general blanket statement of how tech will do. Fuck, who knows? I think certain names will continue to rip. Certain names won't do as well. There's, we're in kind of a rotation period. We're also kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for these, Biden to be finalized or waiting to see what Trump's going to do lawsuit wise, all that shit, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's got they've got a lot of cash on the sidelines, or they did before the election. So the day after the election, past 2 days, 4 days maybe, we saw gap up and run, gap up and run, gap up and run, gap up and run. 4 days in a row, the S&P gapped up. People weren't expecting that, but
yes, sure. Certain stocks are going to come and go. And if you try to bet on like new tech, who knows if you're going to hit it? Like you might get 1 out of 10, and that's okay. If you get 1 out of 10 that runs up to like a Facebook level or something, you're fucking laughing. But for me, it's like tech in our lives is not going away. Like general tech is going crazy. It's always going to be booming. It's like the number one industry. And I just don't see humans having less dependency on tech at any point.
No way. I mean, the way that the world and economy is going right now, humans are becoming less and less valuable, for lack of a better term, right? Like the cost of having a robot on a manufacturing line instead of a person is infinitely cheaper. There's certain tech that you want to be in. You want to be in automation and AI, right? I listen to CNBC a lot. You got to take things they say with a grain of salt. But someone on there was saying the other day that the U.S. made a decision years ago to invest, not literally, like the U.S. companies, the general people in the U.S., what they wanted, whatever. They invest heavily in social media and that kind of thing, right? That was like, they said, what did the guy say? He said, Americans are amazing at social media. They're great. But you know what China invested in a few years ago is automation and AI. And they're, right now we're having fun posting Instagram videos and snaps and all that. But China's really positioned themselves for a run for the next 50 years, whatever. So yeah, 100% you want to have tech exposure.
So how do you feel about investing in foreign markets?
So I don't directly invest, like I don't trade on like the Australian exchange or Hong Kong index or anything, but I do actually, I bought this yesterday. I bought there's an ETF for emerging markets called EEM. And I'm pretty bullish on it right now because of pretty much what I just said. China is making a move. Like all their stocks have held up so well. during this and gone up and held their levels. Not U.S. is just kind of above where they were pre-COVID, but emerging markets, I have a small allocation just because I don't want to be totally on the sidelines of limiting yourself to one market or one whatever, right? Like I will say, like, I'm Canadian, but I invest like probably 90% in American stocks. I just find it more exciting. It's like I follow U.S. politics for a long time, probably more than Canadian, which isn't great. But especially during this year, it's like it's hard not to be in U.S. stocks. It's hard not to, be in some of these techs by Apple and Amazon and all that stuff.
Yeah. Can you give us an overview of your mentality based around your diversification in your own portfolio?
Yeah. For sure. So there's, again, everyone's, like, I want to reiterate, everyone's risk tolerance is different, right? So like I have this, that your potential rate of return is equal to time plus risk tolerance, right? So how much time, for lack of a better term, you have left on this earth, and how much risk tolerance you want. So that's going to be different for everyone. But
so basically the principle there is, if you're young, like you said before, you have time to fuck up and regroup, but you also have more time to fucking crush it. So if that higher risk tolerance at a young age pays off, you're laughing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're older, then you don't have the time to lose, because then you could end up in retirement with zero cash. And that's
for
a problem.
Sure, exactly.
So they go less risk. Now, that's why people, if you look at like a lifespan, if you invest with a financial advisor, which obviously we've discussed, and they're going to charge you huge fees for this, but they're going to put you in a higher risk in a younger age. And then when you hit getting, middle age, they're going to put you in a medium risk. And then when you hit like close to retirement, they're going to put you in a low risk, so that they can be assured that you don't lose all your money. And that's kind of what, if you're a self-investor, you have to kind of do this on your own.
Totally,
and that's a bit tricky. So there's a theory that if you're not going to pay attention to it and you're not going to be on it, maybe the 3% is worth it for you to at least do something with your money, because
100%.
You better not, if you're not going to play it right and fuck it up and never end up with any retirement money, sure, give it to an investor, but
nothing wrong with that.
You got to think of your own.
Exactly. It's going to be different person to person. So what I like now, and the reasons why we saw a rally this week, specifically after the election or whatever the results are, it's leaning towards a Biden win. And so the market's just been waiting for that. So there's a huge rotation into certain industries. So what I like right now, and again, this is just me, I'm in most of these names, or most of these industries at least. Again, this is just me. I'm just a guy. These are companies I like. I bought, whatever. But the biggest thing is alternative energy, right? You see solar stocks have just been ripping the past week. EV, right? Electronic vehicle names. There's a lot of risky names out there in the EV space. Like Nikola signed a deal a few months ago with GM, and then some shit came out about how their car actually, in their video they put out, was actually just going downhill and wasn't even powering itself, and so they just got crushed. Like, I know a lot of people got fucking smoked in that. So you got to be careful with smaller name EV plays. Tesla is like, I've been in Tesla. I've made money on Tesla. I haven't touched Tesla in a while because I just keep going, how fucking high is this going to go? Like, they have a market cap now. I don't know exactly now, but it was higher than BMW, Toyota, Ford, GM combined. It's like, well, they don't sell that many cars. But the thing people don't realize when they're investing in Tesla, they're not really investing in a car company. You're kind of investing in a tech company, right? Their tech, their proprietary tech is really what sets them apart, right? Their self-driving capabilities, their, the whole OS system they developed for in their car, big screens, everything. My mom drives a Tesla. It's impressive. Like, it's fucking crazy. You know, so if you're looking at it and you're going, oh, but there's worth more than Ford and da da da, it's like, oh yeah, but like not purely based on, you know.
Yeah, see, everyone loves to bust that out. Everyone loves to bust those facts out. And, you know, there was people at the beginning of this saying they wanted to bet against Tesla. And, you know, I sold all mine before the split. I sold all mine when it hit like, I don't know, I think I got like 1,700 or something.
Dude, that's exactly when I sold. I think I bought it like 14. I sold it 17 or 18. I was like, how high is this going to go? Higher.
Yeah, then it broke 2,000. But I had mine long play. I bought in at like 300.
Oh, it's sick, man.
Which was like so long ago. Because I had a friend who actually put me on to Rich Dad. He's a snowboard, Matt Belzil. Shout out Matt Belzil, because he's listening to him on a podcast really got me hyped on investing. He's a snowboarder who's made like a decent living snowboarding, but not by no means crazy. And he's just been so smart with his money, buying property, investing properly. And but anyway, so he was like super bullish on it. He's like, he's like Tesla. And I think to this day, I don't even know how much he's got in there, but he's got a lot.
Man, like I remember Tesla. So my neighbor drove a Tesla. Like it was the first Tesla I saw. It was a Model S, and I was like, "Damn, that's sick." And I also knew he was like an investment guy, portfolio manager, whatever. So I'd always ask him about it. And he's like, "I don't know, that it's a volatile stock." Like, and this was when it was $100, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." Like I didn't end up buying in, and that was like 3,000% ago. It's crazy, but it goes to show. Like this is my whole thing about if you're young, you want growth stock. Growth versus value, meaning growth is going to give you that potential exponential growth, the potential for a real shift, you know, into whatever industry that is, or something they have that's proprietary. You know, Peloton, a great example of that. When Peloton stock has been unbelievable. I've never owned it, but
what is Peloton? I don't even know what that is.
Sorry, Peloton, the bike, like the stationary bikes.
Oh, no way.
You know, have you seen commercials? Yeah. They're like $2,500 stationary bikes, but they absolutely sold like crazy during COVID, right? It makes sense. But that was something proprietary they had. It's not like there aren't people out there making stationary bikes, but their whole software they had for it, everything set up. You can bike any road in the world, like all these things. They crushed, right? That was a value stock. It was not a safe place to put your money, but it worked out for people that did, right? There are safer places to put your money. And again, this all comes back to risk tolerance, but value stocks are things like banks, Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett's mutual fund, you know, things that are stable, usually provide a nice dividend.
Yeah. Also like things like Coca-Cola and things that are like, what do you call those stocks? They're called...
consumer staples? Would that be a consumer?
Yeah, definitely consumer staples. But there's like a name for like those big ones, like steel companies and things like that that are been around for super long time.
Yeah,
that have been super
Rail,
stable.
Amazing. Yeah. CN Rail is like, you know, this is Canadian National Railway. You should have to think, okay, how is this affecting our economy? How is this affecting our world? When COVID happened, trains didn't stop moving product across the country. You know. That was not something that was affected. If anything, more important. So there are always opportunities, but you got to find them. You got to put the work in and do your research. So just coming back to like things I'm bullish on right now, sectors or names, and this is kind of, you know, this could change day to day, but right now, and these are kind of dependent on a Biden win, but energy, solar. We mentioned metals, Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin hit 16,000 today. Like I bought some Bitcoin in 2012, forgot about it. Like I bought 0.1 of Bitcoin in 2012 for like $100, I think. Forgot about it. It went up to like 20K, came back down. Literally in March, I was like, holy fuck, I have a little Bitcoin somewhere. So I had to like find these like mnemonic password that they have or whatever and like figure it out. I'm like, oh damn, like that was a good purchase. I'm up like $800 or whatever, and I forgot about it. So Bitcoin, I think, is, you know, it's another decentralized.
So basically, to speak on that for a second, kind of goes hand in hand with gold. It, you know, people as they become less trustworthy of the dollar, right?
Yeah.
As they become, like they stopped believing in the economy, which, with the Biden win, they might believe in the economy more. But this is also weird because there's so many people that said, like, as far as like economic growth, Trump was really good for the country, and like big corps, like he had all these plans to help the big business, which the general public doesn't like, but yet it is economic growth in a sense, right? So anyway, I don't know how that plays in as much, but as people become less trustworthy in the governmental system of money, which is the US dollar, the Canadian dollar, they'll put their money in decentralized systems, which they hope will grow, which is Bitcoin. And they're projecting dumb growth on Bitcoin in like 5 years. Man,
I almost sold 3 weeks ago when it hit 11,000. And I was like, man, I really need a new MacBook. Like this could I'm okay with selling here for something I need. Like that's up to 16,000 in like 3 weeks from that. I didn't sell, thank God. But
personally, I have some that I've had for a long time. I lost a bunch, like that initial, like 2 years ago, it had a crazy boom. Yeah. And then everyone was like hype on it. And that was the same thing with the wheat stocks. When wheat stocks came out, the Canadian economy, everyone fucking bought in. Some people made good money, but if you didn't get out, now we're waiting for like the next 10 years for those stocks to recover. And some will die off because those companies will be gone. But the same thing happened with Bitcoin. It went up crazy. It was a major hype. It's in the news. Everyone's going in. Your grandma went in. And then it fucking died. And now...
pulled the rug on so many people.
Yeah, it's leveling now. And it's going to do a more natural growth, but also a growth dependent on people's perception of fiat currency. So I think I own like a chunk, and I'm going to continue to buy, I believe. Yeah. But again... that's just my opinion.
Who knows? But like I'm, at this point in my life, I'm willing to have a good chunk in Bitcoin for the potential risk reward. I like it. I think Bitcoin will go to 100,000 in the not too distant future. Year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. But I think like there's a lot of wild predictions out there, and nobody knows, right? Like nobody knows. I don't know. But I think it's worthwhile to have something in it for sure.
When you look at big wins, okay, if you put $1,000 into 10 potential stocks like that you've researched that you believe in, you really only have to make big on one. Like you could lose the $9,000, but that one could go to $100,000. So like you have to be okay with those 9. You got to take those 10 bets to get one win. Just like in business, they say like failure is the most important thing because you learn from it. Like just fucking forget about the luck. Like I forgot about the wheat stocks. I don't even care. And I'm winning on all these other things because I took the time to learn.
Well, exactly. A big thing, opportunity cost too, right? That's a huge thing. And that means like, if you're spending time on something, is it actually more valuable than the time and opportunity you're giving up, or you could be spending on something else or money in that case, So if I'm in a losing position, and I kept doubling down, trying to get out, the money I'm putting into doubling down, as opposed to taking the initial loss, usually, ideally you'd have a stop loss in place or whatever, but it's costing me all this money and opportunity that could be much more better suited somewhere else, right?
Yeah, instead of just forgetting about it and moving on, like you say, you waste money trying to recover the money you've already lost.
Yeah.
You
gotta be willing to accept a loss. That's the biggest thing, and I struggle with it. It's hard. Nobody likes to lose. You want to hold out and go, maybe. And with weed stocks, for example, it's like, well, fuck. Like I have a buddy that bought same thing, like bought weed when it was hype, and that was an ultimate buy the rumor, sell the news event, right? I remember literally October 18th, I think, was legalization day in Canada federally, and that day was the day that weed stocks dropped. And they haven't recovered since that day. The run up, the 6 months up, was massive, right? Tilray went to 300, Aurora went to 100, like whatever, all that stuff. It was the ultimate, that's an investment saying, buy the rumor, sell the news, right? It's like too many eyes. Like there's too many eyes on this play. Everybody knows Canada's legalizing on the 18th or whatever. So the big market movers, the big dogs go, well, I'm going to pull the rug on these fucking people. Probably buy it back lower once their stop losses all hit and they're out. It's
and it's also it was because there was no actual money being made. The business went to shit. No legal dispensaries were in place when they went legalized. Even to this day, we're past the 2-year mark on legalization.
Yeah, it's unreal.
And there's still very few legal dispensaries set up in this country to supply the demand.
100%. Like there was one that just opened in Scarborough and down the street, and that's the closest one that I've seen open up. Like they handed out, it was like a lottery system, I think, at first for very limited amount of stores to open, and you know they're kind of scattered around the GTA. But it's a joke. They made OCS.ca, and that's fine and whatever. But people wanted to go in and learn, and like just a lot of the dispensaries are beautiful. Like you go in, it's like super knowledgeable people. Everything's on display. It's nice. And people want that, right? People want to learn. There's so many people that are open to it now in this country, especially, that are just like, but I don't know where to start. I don't know the dosage. I don't want to just like order online, like whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, that being said, weed stocks are up like, I don't have any positions in them, but like fucking 30 or like 60%. Like Aurora Cannabis is up 50% today. Crazy. But on
50% today? Well, I still hold positions because I didn't go out because I'm like, I don't care. I've lost so much money that I'm like, I'll wait out this 5-year period for like the business to bounce, right? Because
it was up. It's up 55% today right now. It was up 100%. On that note, though, again, in the kind of realm of what I'm bullish on, super bullish on therapeutic psychedelic. This is something that's becoming more mainstream. And there are a few companies doing it, and a lot of people are starting to talk about it. Microdosing, psilocybin, the active ingredient in mushrooms. There are companies that, they have FDA approval now. And the one that I like and I'm invested in is called Compass Therapeutics. They just IPO'd a few weeks ago, but they're the only ones with a proprietary, they don't, psychedelics companies are kind of like, you're almost investing in like a farm, like they're growing and doing that kind of thing. Compass synthesizes it. It's a purely synthesized psilocybin, right? Made in a lab. Safe, the exact same chemical compound. But what it lets them do is have consistency in it, right? If you're trying to use this therapeutically and really help people, the ideas, depression, PTSD, anxiety, these things, and I can't speak to it myself, but
well, I mean, just to touch on that, my wife has been taking like the microdose lately.
Yeah.
Just for like anxiety, like moods and things like that. And she's pumped on it, dude.
I love it. I've never done shrooms. I'm allergic to penicillin. I've always been told like if you are, there's a similar ingredient in shrooms or something. But the whole thing is like, well, if this is synthesized, you know exactly what's in it, whatever. Anyway, I like therapeutic psychedelics going forward. Again, Biden administration helps that a lot more than Trump administration. Weed stocks, I think, are going to keep going. They might need to pull back now, but I'm long-term super bullish on weed stocks. I think, who legalized the other day? New Jersey legalized, Oregon legalized. Biden said he'll federally legalize it. So probably want to have a little exposure to it. They have a long way to go back up if that's what happens. But on that note, more Biden stocks. I like, there are plays that kind of aren't the obvious what you think. So you go like, okay, so if Biden, if he has this Green New Deal or whatever, and he wants more electric cars on the road and that whole thing, it's like, okay, how can I profit off that without kind of the obvious play that everybody's looking at being, buy one of these car companies or whatever. So it kind of goes back to the old adage of selling the pickaxes to gold miners during the gold rush. You want to be the guy that's selling them the shovels or the whatever. Let them worry about trying to find the gold, right? So what I like are battery plays right now and lithium. So this is also, I'm a bit of a commodity guy, but I like lithium quite a bit. There are a few.
Is lithium? Yeah. Lithium is a compound. So you're talking like mining companies, or what are you talking?
Yeah, exactly. So there are companies that pull lithium out of the ground. There are some that are partnered with Tesla and stuff. I don't know for sure if LAC is partnered with Tesla, but Lithium Americas Corp. That's what I'm in. I'm also in Li.V, which is a Canadian one.
So what do you think about, like, you're in lithium? What about cobalt?
So it's like, I don't know enough. So everything I've heard about cobalt, and I haven't looked in, so I don't want to say too much. is the same idea. Really, like any metal needed or any kind of compound needed in the production of these is what I think is going to go, right? So cobalt, like I know
they need cobalt. They need
Tesla
lithium.
uses a lot of cobalt. Yeah.
So here's something that's interesting, though. So this is a play, again, selling a shovel to a miner. But you got to think, too, they may reinvent the shovel. So this is also like, when you look at battery technology.
Got an answer for that.
You do? Okay, well, there you go. So let's hear your answer. So if they my theory was like if they reinvent the battery and they don't need those metals anymore, those metals.
Excellent point. Transitions well into reinventing the battery. There's a company doing that right now. They're called QuantumScape. They trade right now under a SPAC, which is a special purpose acquisition company. So it essentially takes them public. So right now they trade under KCAC, Kensington Capital Acquisition Corp. Stands for. Soon the ticker will change to QS in the fourth quarter, they said. I'm long on them. Bill Gates is a major investor. Board of directors from Tesla is now on the board here. So what they do is they're essentially, and we're doing this for a few years, working on it, creating a solid state lithium battery, which is different than lithium ion in that they're liquid or not. Let me get a little sciencey. The particles can be more densely packed in a solid state lithium battery that they're inventing. Therefore, gives you so much more, bang for your buck, if you will, range of battery and the recharge rate too. So they have, they say they can, in 15 minutes, these batteries are recharged to 80%. I like them. I'm in them, but do your research on them. I think they were on like Jim Cramer a few weeks ago. One of the big ones I like too is coffee. Like I just went long on this ETF called JO, and it tracks coffee futures. Again, commodities guy a little bit. That's a soft commodity versus metals that are a hard commodity, but
commodity nonetheless. Our dependence on coffee is real.
That's right. It's no
okay.
joke.
So as far as your like allocation, you said you do play some ETFs, but you play company stocks pretty heavy. And now you're pretty young, so your risk tolerance is pretty high at this point.
Quite, yeah. I paid for it. I say, I haven't, gone to school for this stuff or anything, but, I've paid for the lessons of getting to where I am, It's one of the best lessons you can learn is doing it firsthand or losing money.
And this goes the same with the vintage game, like selling something for nothing, and you need to do that to learn. Now, or buying something for too much and then losing money on it because you're like, fuck, I got too emotional about some t-shirt or something.
Yeah. I guess this will look cool on my Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we did a full episode with Jeremy of Personal Finance Club, whose method is very different. His method is strictly ETFs. He says 90% ETFs, 10% fund money. So if you want to go listen to that episode, you're welcome to. And that is a safer, more set it and forget it method.
Proven,
Yeah, proven. And, we're talking about, a higher risk tolerance here. And also like just kind of what we're into. And like, again, like I still play a lot of what Jeremy says, but I also probably play a bit more than 10%. I'm probably like 30% playing on these like higher risk, more fun, and obviously potential for a lot more growth.
Yeah, man. It keeps you engaged too, right? Like I wouldn't know so much or care so much about the world economy and macro things happening if I didn't literally have money on the line depending on what's happening, and I like that. It keeps me involved in the world and what's happening. And it's kind of like, if you take it as a challenge, but to make money, like do your research, make money, and your play works out for you the way you think, it's the best feeling ever. You're just like, I'm Warren fucking Buffett. Like, I made $100 on this. Are you kidding me? That's unreal.
Yeah, and this is something. It is. You got to look at it like a game. I look at it like a game. Of course, there's money on the line, but you got people spending 8 hours on fucking Call of Duty. It's like that is a game, right? But you're not making any money. But you could play this like that, where you actually like get invested. You have fun with it. You have fun with the wins, and you want to want to learn. And it becomes that. you know,
Okay.
as long as you can control your emotions on the downside, you're good.
Hardest part. It's tough, man. Like, don't go out there and day trade. If you want to day trade, start a paper trading account, meaning like fake money.
Play a fake account. You can literally get $100,000 in fake money. You can play it.
Dude.
You can totally learn, pretend it's real, and see how the whole system works. But so on that note, like, let's get into a few technical things. So give us the what is, what, how of a stop loss and and triggers and how they play.
If you like a brand or you like a name, say you like Lululemon a lot and they're a really strong stock and you don't think they're going anywhere and you don't even care about their day to day, cool. Buy the name wherever you want. If you're long term bullish on it, don't even look at it. Doesn't matter. But if you're trying to get in at a good entry point for a trade, not so much a long term hold, there are things to look for, and the entry point is super, super important, more than the exit point, I would say, because, you know, ideally you're going to have a stop loss. So that's going to, say you buy XYZ stock at $10 and you are willing to risk 15% of whatever amount you did. You put a stop loss 15%, you can do that. You can put in like 15%, and when it goes down, if it goes down 15%, it'll stop you out. It'll sell at that price. And the idea being you protect your capital. You don't take any more gains. Again, this is the hard part. You have to be willing to take a loss, and it sucks. But being able to come up with a plan and stick to it is so important, and also the hardest thing to do, to keep your emotions out of it and not react. There shouldn't be any reactions in trading. You know, this should all be as calculated as you can make it in sticking to your plan.
And so when you say that, it's like, have a plan already in place for if it takes.
Written down.
Yeah, have a plan already in place for if it goes up too, because that's another thing. People get emotional on the upside and they're like, I want it to go. I want it to keep going. Yep. Basically, what he's saying is you buy for $10, you're going to set 15% lower, which is $8.50. If that stock drops to $8.50, the auto trigger kicks in, it sells your stock for you. You lost $1.50 per share, but that's your tolerance.
But you controlled your
that's your tolerance for what you've already predetermined that you were willing to lose. Yeah. Then on the upside, if it keeps going up, there's nothing. But you could also set what do you call it? A stop sell or
a limit order? Just
limit order. So there's a theory that this is one of Rich Dad's methods of investing. It's like set your limit order to like a percent gain. Be like, if I make 20% on this trade, I'm going to limit out and sell. Yeah. And that is like, that's your plan. So you know what your downside would be and you know what your upside would be.
Yeah.
And that way it's like, okay, I just made $20 in that trade. I'm going to go make another 20 or 20%. Yeah. Sorry. I'm going to make another 20%. It's funny when you look at percentages. It's like, if you make 2% a month, right, on your account, that's 24% a year. That's huge.
That's 2.5 times what chartered account or money managers generally net you.
Yeah.
And you don't pay them fees. You know, we talked about kind of challenges on this, right? Setting a challenge for people. And I think, the general range that money managers try and get you is around 10% annually, 7 to 10%, but you pay them 3% usually. So open an account if you don't already have one. Really look into companies you like and that you know, right? Know what you own and own what you know. What do we know? We know clothes, retail, things like that. Think like, I don't know, am I a gamer? Do I know, Activision, EA? Do I know do I like to build computers? Do I know which microchip semis are the best? NVIDIA, AMD, anything like that? And then look into the company. It's intimidating to try and pull up financials of a company and their quarterly report and read through it, but it's not that confusing or hard. Like, there are very basic numbers you can look at and go, oh, that's a good percentage year over year. Oh, they have this much debt or they have this much free cash flow sitting around, important things. But at the end of the day, if you like a company and you're long term on it, buy it.
Yeah. And this is very good point because, there's probably vintage people that are big gamers, right? And they're sitting around
For
playing.
sure.
They're like you said, into some gaming companies, Activision or whatever it is, and it's like you already know that company so well.
You already know.
You know when they're putting out new games. You know if that game sold well. You know if like they've come out with a new system or a new technology. So it's like you already are the Warren Buffett of that fucking stock.
Yeah.
Right. So like maybe
give yourself a little credit.
Totally. Start with something like that.
100%. Like for me, that was originally retail. Like I liked retail stocks. You know, I was big on like sports, like Nike. I was in Lulu. I liked a lot for that run up. And yeah, it's important. Like I'll say it again: own what you know and know what you won't.
So
and
the challenge here is open your brokerage.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Get the challenge out.
Yeah. So start an account in a brokerage. Put in whatever amount you're comfortable with. Right. I'm not saying you have to put in 10 grand. Put in $500. Put in $1,000. Put in $100. If that's cool. Like awesome. But give yourself the chance to, you know, in 1 year or 6 months or whatever, you know, see if you can earn 7% in 6 months. See if you can earn more than 10% in a year. And you'll prove to yourself, be like, oh shit, like my account just outperformed the general return from these, you know, money managers that are taking whatever percentage to get in. By all means, like that's cool. Again, if that's your thing, like you don't care, you want it safe, you're willing to pay someone, that like all power to you. That's I feel it. But try and open an account and just see if you can outperform that general 7 to 10% annual return. I'm willing to bet you can, because if you're picking the right names or industries and things that you know and things that you really dig deep and you go, yeah, I think this can really thrive in this new world or whatever. 10% a year isn't hard to do. Like you can have one trade and make 10% on it.
If you can get 10, 15, 20% on $100, you can get 10, 15, 20% on $100,000.
Man, and compound interest is a beautiful thing. I know you talked about that a lot with Jeremy. It's your account will grow exponentially with compound interest. It's a wild thing, and you can do it pretty passively too. You don't have to be watching charts all day. I love charts. I'm a huge chart guy. I'm a big technical analysis nerd. This is what I'm reading right now. Really good. I love it. Like it's just, but I love doing that, right? I love sitting in front of a chart, watching support and resistance, how everything reacts, but not everyone does. Totally. It's awesome. Yeah. I get that. But
that's not me.
No, fair, dude. It's not most people. Yeah. But like,
what about shorting? You short?
Don't. There's no need. I don't short anything. I don't sell shares short ever. The stats of selling short versus going long on something, it's just not worth it. It's just probably not going to work in your favor to bet against something. I would so much rather have my money going towards something that I believe in. Yeah. It's just...
so technically a short is that you sell a share that you don't own, and then you have to... the theory is then you buy it back at a lower price. So you're betting that stock's going down versus that it goes up.
Yeah, and you keep the difference.
Yeah.
But I think you have to have a lot of capital to play with the short stock to make it worth your while. It's just like there are ways to trade without getting too riskier into the nitty gritty of, you know, just stay long on things. Just stay. If you don't like something, don't short it. Just don't buy it, you know?
That's good. So I have to ask you this one. Did you see that stock that I was pumping up, Cielo? It's like the waste management. Okay, this is a Canadian company that's taking trash and turning it into diesel fuel.
Oh, no shit.
Check it out. CIELO. I think it's CWC ticker. It's a penny stock right now. It's at like 10 cents or something. It's been fluctuating a little bit, but they've made huge leaps and bounds in like their production capabilities. They've actually proven that it's working. They are producing in one factory. They have like 40 factories projected to turn like actual our physical garbage into diesel fuel.
No kidding, eh?
So because I was going to mention that when you were saying into like green tech, like solar and stuff, like this kind of goes hand in hand with that, although it's obviously different. It's not as green as solar.
It's alternative though, right? It's all alternative energy, which is, we're still pulling dinosaur bones out of the ground and putting them into our car to go. Like it's pretty archaic, the industry that's still, you know, you got to think in your lifetime, you just got to go, well, I'm probably not going to last for my whole lifetime. Like I'd rather be in, these emerging market or these emerging industries of whatever, automation, tech, alternative energy, anything like that.
Yeah. And again, like if Biden goes in and this Canadian company out of Alberta can like strike deals with America, which is obviously going to be more probable with a Biden win, then that's huge,
Yeah. No, I like it. There are gems like that, right? The other thing, like you mentioned, it's a penny stock. Penny stocks are, interesting. I've traded penny stocks. I still do here and there. They can be super volatile. Penny, I think, is qualified anything under $5 now, I think is called a penny stock, but usually they're in like less than $1. But, they can be big winners and big losers. So people like them because of the volatility and the leverage, right? If something trades for 10 cents, you can buy 10,000 shares of that and have, if it goes up 5 cents, you're laughing. Quick math, I don't know, but there are big downsides and upsides, but there are trading groups and on Discord and that sort of thing that trade penny stocks every day and make sick money. That being said, all they do is that they read every report that comes out. If it's a biotech company or something, they wait for their like PDUFA dates, which is like or FDA approval or anything like that. They know. So it's not as easy as just buying something for 10 cents, selling for $1. But penny stocks are interesting if you want a little more leverage and you want, don't put your whole account into it. But, I don't, it's hard to find the companies though. Like I couldn't even recommend a penny stock right now,
No, I mean, I got recommended this one by a friend and, I'm not playing it like, a quick in and out trade. I'm playing it like this company takes off and that stock goes to $5 and then you're super laughing. But you, again, like, for me, it's like if I put 10 grand, I mean, I only put $1,000 in to start, but if I put $1,000 in at 10 cents a share, and it goes to $1, I'm 10 grand, right? If it goes to $10, I'm 100 grand. And the downside on that is nothing, right? $1,000 still potentially lose.
That's exactly like if you're okay with losing everything you put in and you're just like, okay, $1,000, I'll risk $1,000. You want your risk reward. The general rule is 1 to 3. You want to be able to make 3x and on the downside 1x. Understand?
So lose $1, but potentially make 2.
Right. Totally.
Okay. So I think we've covered a lot of good stuff, dude. That was a sweet chat. I think there's a lot of info in there. Obviously, like we've said, we're just two guys talking about a bunch of shit. Hopefully you learned something. Definitely do your research. Make wise decisions. We hardly talked about vintage on this episode, which
dude, I know.
I'm kind of stoked on. I think people need something else. We talked so much about vintage.
For sure.
I promote investing. Hopefully you guys learned something. The challenge is to go try to beat the investment brokers. Try to get 10% on your money. Just start it and learn. Like just start at $100.
Just open an account. Yeah.
Open an account and learn about it because this is the way you're going to become retired at a young age. I'm personally shooting for Freedom 45. I just turned 40.
Nice.
I'm going balls to the wall for 5 years.
Yeah, dude.
Investing is part of this plan. And I'm going to do a whole video kind of breaking down my methodology of how I'm going to get to Freedom 45. Yeah. Because I think some people can't even grasp the concept, right? And I think the first thing you got to do is like, you got to work backwards. It's like, what do I need to be free at 45, right? Totally. So for me, what I'm kind of thinking is 2.5 mil, which is a big chunk of change. In today's day and age, it's not that much, to be honest.
It's not.
It's not.
Unfortunately, it's not. Yeah, I know.
So when you look at even 2.5 mil, even if I was to get the minimum 7 to 10%, I'm still netting myself like 170,000 to 250,000 per year to live on, which is comfortable as fuck.
And I mean, like diversification goes into all that. You have stock investment, but diversification can be anything. It's property, it's real estate. I buy like kind of, or I'm kind of starting to like just artifacts and relics, just like historical pieces, like or T-shirts. Like that's all. I would call this still part of my portfolio, if you will. It's just like a '69 like Woodstock tank, like just things that I just put away that I'm like, whatever. Like when Raptors won I bought one of those like Kawhi Boardman gets paid shirts, put that away. Just think a little bit ahead. Don't know, there are lots of options to, I say this all the time. There have never been so many different ways to make money in human history at our fingertips, right?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. You can go into a store, a thrift store, open a phone, open the Amazon app on your phone, scan a book, and it tells you how much you could sell for on Amazon right now.
Totally.
It's crazy. Like, it just takes work. It takes giving a shit and wanting to truly upgrade your life.
Yeah. And hustle, man. Like you said, you said it, it's diversity. So I look at that number 2.5 mil, but then I look at like what that gets me. The reason I thought of that number was because of the, say, 250,000 a year that I want, right? And that's what I want for my family, so I could like travel the world. That'll probably be good to go. But then again, like if I can have 50 grand a year coming in from rental income, then really all I need is 2 mil, because I need 200 more grand to hit the 250. Or then if I have maybe I have 50 grand coming in from YouTube by that point a year. You know what I mean? And then all I need is 150.
That's diversification, right? Like your YouTube account, it's all part of that. Like it's the podcast. It's all, this is the nest egg you're building. And, it's an admirable thing. Like it's smart. And a lot of people are really gaining a lot of knowledge from what you're telling them on this pod, and just sharing, experience of someone that's like, we're all self-employed here, right? We're all, most of us, like we don't have health benefits, like all that shit, right? So we have to think of ways to secure our retirement. And, even before this, like I've always been self-employed, like photo, whatever. So you have to think of how you're like now, how you're going to retire, what you're going to live on. If you want to be self-employed your whole life, which I do, I fucking don't want to work for anyone ever. It sucks.
Totally.
So, do it now.
Yeah. And that's for people listening, you look at, okay, you're out there right now. You're probably going to hustle. You're probably going to sell a few t-shirts on Instagram today, right? Tomorrow, if you were sitting on the beach and you weren't posting, would you make any money? If the answer is no, then you got a lot of work to do. You got a lot of work to do in getting yourself to be in a place where tomorrow you can be sitting at the beach with your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and you're still making money. That's passive. Selling t-shirts on Instagram is completely not passive.
I mentioned Amazon FBA. Like, it's not that hard to even do, they call it retail arbitrage, when you go and you find sales and then resell it on Amazon for retail price, right? It all ties in. Like, passive income is everything. Like, you're making money while you sleep. Like, there are so many ways to do that. Drop shipping companies. Like, people just start drop shipping companies on Shopify. Drop shipping meaning they get the products made in China, shipped from China. It never comes through your hands. It goes right to the person, and it's just totally passive. It's usually shit, like it's crap, whatever, and probably not what the world fucking needs.
Everybody's seen those ads to start drop shipping, and I've fell victim to it too. Like, there's been a couple times we've sold some drop shipping products. They were pretty shit and cheap, not gonna lie, but some of them sold like fucking hotcakes.
Yeah.
Again, like even from your company, you're doing Amazon shipping through your patch company, which is a huge step towards more passive income.
Oh, it's been huge. Like, it was such a burden. I'm so, obviously Amazon takes a fee for packaging and FBA and all that shit. My God, is it ever worth it? Like, it goes back to what we were talking about at the start of the beginning. It's opportunity cost. Like, packaging those patches and shipping them all over the world, spending an hour, 2 hours a day doing that, whatever, is like, God, what a waste of time that seems like. In this day and age, it's like, you want me to sit here, take 2 hours of my day and put these things in envelopes, put it in the mailbox? It's like, no, dude, you can take, 30% of my margin and do it all.
Yeah. Like we just automated something at Frankie where we send our images now to like a third party editing service. So instead of having somebody sit there on freaking Adobe and edit and crop all these photos and adjust the color, now we literally send them out. They come back perfectly cropped, perfectly color balanced. Like, I'm talking better than we could even do it. And I don't have to pay that. I got to pay that company, but it's still
a lot cheaper.
A fair price, Yeah. And it's way better.
It's like, I used to work at a marketing agency and for e-commerce. I didn't touch on that. It was just a few years ago. But I'd run the operations there, and a lot of what I did was art approval and stuff. And we had a team of like 40 graphic artists, all in the Philippines. We paid them a good wage. I mean, I wasn't the fucking boss and take care of that, but they made good money working for us, for their country, to live there. And the quality of work was unreal. And their turnaround time is crazy. They work like opposite hours of you, which is great. It's like, there are always people to do things for you now if that's not your forte and your time is maybe better spent somewhere else.
And then there's also one thing to remember about that. It's like, our photo editing, I don't even know where, but I'm guessing it's going out to India probably, right?
Yeah, probably.
Because I didn't even handle that. Like Zach, my production manager, handled that. And obviously you got to pay people fair living wages for what the job is worth. But it costs a lot less to live like we do in India.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not relative. If you're paying someone $5 an hour, this is just numbers out of my head. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You're paying someone $5 an hour in India. That might be equivalent to like $40 here.
Oh, for sure.
But some people would look at that and go like, that's not fair. They should be getting $15 like we get. But it's like, well, it's relative to their lifestyle and the cost of living. Just like even in America, you go to Texas, it's $7 minimum wage. You go to California, it's $15 minimum wage. You know, that person in fucking Texas might live better than the person in California just because the cost of living is so much cheaper.
Totally. Like there are so many kind of hidden factors into all that, you know, like especially when you're talking state to state like that, you know, land tax and, you know, income tax. The fucking income tax differences in the states blows my mind. Like Florida has zero income tax, Texas has zero income tax. Like we get taxed pretty high in Canada, but it goes towards things that we need, healthcare and everything.
But then you go to Cali, and now they're upping Cali to possibly 55% for top earners. You're paying more than
everyone's leaving.
Yeah, you're paying more than half of your fucking wage. That's why you have these people that are basing themselves in Texas and Florida, and then just going to Cali for jobs. I'm super unfocused here. And then doing their taxes in these better states. Yeah. And Cali's trying to figure this out. And I even heard Cali's going to be taxing people for moving. They're just trying to grab at this money however they can.
I'm not bullish on California right now, if you will.
No.
It's like, I love California. I have family in Thousand Oaks. I love California very much. I wanted to live in LA forever. I don't want to live in LA anymore. I think that, I was listening to your pod when you went down to a couple weeks ago or whatever. And, everything I've heard too, the homeless problem, like it's sad, man. It's the country is shifting, and it's from
California
our
dream
here in Canada. Oh man,
California dream is over. I hate to say it. I fucking love California.
Dude, I know.
I got to say that. And I got to say that if we talk about exoduses from places, California is going to have the fucking biggest exodus of all time, man.
100%, dude. Nor like San Francisco, dude. Like, I don't know. Why people are like, why the fuck would I live in this ridiculously priced city? And I can move one state over and make, 25% more and live that. I get it. Like, I fucking get it.
So there's some investment advice. Start looking at where those Californians are going to move and figure it out.
Dude, my girlfriend and I are looking at farms to buy. A little hobby farm. That's my vibe going forward. I'm like,
sick, dude.
Every shift I'm trying to make is to become less dependent on anybody else. This summer we got super into gardening, like grew all our own veggies, like grew weed. It was great. Like we were like, fuck, this made us so happy being able to like tend to these plants and stuff. We both lived in the city before, and we're just like, well, we're not going to do that again. And so we're just like, well, fuck, like let's try and find some land and totally do our thing. So that's why we like Kelowna. I don't know. We like both our parents want to retire in Kelowna, so that could work. But we'll see.
I got friends out there. It's great, man. You're close to the mountains.
The climate.
Great for summer. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, man. I know.
Okay, so I want to end the podcast on a skateboarding note. If there's any skaters who actually made it this far in the episode, kudos to you. This is a long one, but you definitely learned something. Okay, so you grew up skateboarding around Toronto, correct?
Yeah.
You go skate in the city and stuff?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I want to know your 5 top Toronto skate spots, street spots.
Okay, number 1, Duff Grove, probably. Like, it's like the sketchiest, like shittiest one, but it was just like the vibe was cool, and it was just like, I don't know, Sunbat too.
So explain it. Like, what was there? Because for people that don't know,
so, it's still there. Like Duff Grove, it's across from Dufferin Mall in Parkdale, west end of Toronto. It's just like a few boxes, like maybe a rail. I haven't been there a long time, but like there was a quarter pipe. There was just like a little ramp. Like people there were like just like raw skating on fucking whatever they had in the shitty tennis court, whatever.
Classic DIY vibe.
Yeah, 100%. Also, on that note, there's this, I'm trying to think, also in the West End, I want to say like Brock Road or something like that. There's a half pipe under a little mini pipe under a bridge beside train tracks there. And it was like sketchy and super steep, but it was like poured concrete, little mini ramp that was there forever. I think it's probably still there. I used to intern at like No Fun Press. You've probably seen like No Fun stickers around Toronto and everything. Shout out Riley. He, I interned there in photo school, and which was just making zines and like shooting the shit. And he like showed me a few of these places, and that was a big start. Like, actually, huge shout out to Riley. Like, No Fun Press. You don't already know them; they're big in Toronto, and you've probably seen their stuff. But okay, so yeah, Duff Grove. And Ashbridges Bay is a really good park too. Like, Ashbridges is just nice. You're by the water. But I always like the DIY spots. The thing is, like, in high school, I built a mini ramp in my backyard, so that was like the spot. Like, it was nice. Great. Like, my buddies would come over at lunch and we'd skate and skip class and skate more. And,
4 foot or what?
It was 4 foot, but it was like the tranny was a little too steep, so it was like I wanted a little like 2.5, 3 footer, a nice, like, your mini ramp's dope, or is a little neighborhood.
It's my neighbors,
ramp. Yeah. Oh, sick. I want another one that's just like, half that height, just like a smooth transition. I'm not trying to like hurt myself anymore.
Those steep ramps, though, they really make you work for it, dude. The steep trannies, like, harder to get tricks.
Skater.
For sure.
Yeah, man. I grew up right around the time like Markham opened a skate park, and like Jeff Rowley came through. Like Mark Appleyard was there.
So Mark Appleyard's from Hamilton, obviously, you know that.
Yeah, dude. And Morgan Smith, Morgan Smith, blind.
No,
he's a Markham guy. So when I was like 9, I went to like a Markham skateboard camp, and it was just like a trailer. They'd pull into like a arena parking lot and unload a few wooden ramps off of it or whatever, And it was Morgan Smith, who was like, it was a summer gig or whatever. He went on to fucking skate for blind, and he's still on blind, like, unreal skateboarder. But it's just like things like that. Just like you see guys around the park, see guys around town just like ripping, and it's like, fuck, that's sick.
Totally.
Like,
yeah, it was. I kind of grew. Appleyard's a bit younger than me, but not by much.
Yeah.
So I used to see him at Beasley, and there was a park near there, like Oakville, I want to say, that he would skate at a lot. And yeah, he was fucking ripping, dude. And it was rad to see him get so much credit, dude, and get he was like, he was one of our only, well, we've had a lot of good pros, but especially from that era in my time, he was like the super pro.
Man, I had his Circa shoes. Like, I think I still have a poster of his. That was sick. Yeah, it was just cool. It was like, oh, this dude's local. Like, he skated the same park as me, and now I'm watching the video. Like, so.
And I will say that he was a fucking hustler. Like, he would be like going trick after trick after trick until he got it. And you can see the difference between someone who's going to make it and someone who's not. Like, those guys, like, they'll fucking bail 50 times to get a trick, 100 times to get a trick. And Mark Appleyard was no different, man. Like, you can see he had it. Like, he had this board control that nobody else had, but also he put in the work.
Yeah, man. You look at guys, and it's like guys are just throwing themselves, like, Jaws, like Hiroki or whatever, shit like that. When you see them bail and you see all the tries, it's like, man, this guy, like I appreciate what he's doing that much more, because he didn't land this shit first try,
Yeah, totally. You have any like last words or shout outs?
Oh man, no shout outs. Everyone sucks, but no. No, man, I don't know. Start an account, buy what you know, own what you know what you own, right? That's a big takeaway. And just start looking into it and just start planning. Just like take this time of, this COVID shift, and really take the opportunity to plan for what you want. Like, this is the time in your life to make change. If there's any change you want, there's no point of waiting, because it's not going to get easier to make that change or anything. It's
sick.
Okay, wait, let me show you one thing.
Yeah. Let's see it. Let's end it with a piece.
Yeah. Okay, so I haven't posted this on Insta or anything yet.
Oh wait, before you even show me, I gotta mention this before I fucking forget. I kept meaning to mention this. So, thanks for your skate spots, by the way. But you fucking sent me the best video, and I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna put it on here.
Yeah, dude.
So after my hookups sale with 1980 something Co on the virtual flea, everyone was like, everyone was doing all these stupid kickflip comments in the fucking feed. And I was like, okay, anybody who sends me a kickflip, I'm going to repost it. You sent me the best kickflip video. It was true blue Canadian. You did the kickflip out by your pool in the Jordan 1s, right in front of your weed plants in buckets. Then you jumped in the pool. And that video I'm going to play right now.
Hell yeah.
Okay, show me what you got.
All right, so I haven't posted it yet. It's not super vintage, but it's fucking cool. So I pull this out. I posted a video live. I started recording on my story when I pulled it, but I was like, what the fuck is this? So pull this out. I see a little, a little Louis hit. And I'm all right. So it's a Dickies jumpsuit. Fuck, it's long.
Damn.
Okay. But dude, right? Dickies, your standard jumpsuit, but the back is all custom Louis print, but like nice, like well done, like super well put together. And I'm like, fuck, that's cool. Like, I don't know. Wild. I don't know who that. But
that doesn't even look. How old do you think that is?
I can tell you exactly. So I look inside, or I didn't even then. I just put it in my bag, got home, look inside. It says Lori Phillips, 4 tab 8/15/04. So I Google Lori Phillips. What do you know? She's the head designer for and has been since 04 for the Black Eyed Peas. I go 4 tab. Like, what is that? I'm like, oh. I look at the members of Black Eyed Peas. There's one called Taboo. I'm like, 4 Taboo. I'm like, sick. So I messaged Lori on Instagram. Took her like a week or two to get back to me with a picture. Or I sent a picture and she's like, holy shit, I cannot believe you found that. And I messaged Taboo too. He gets back to me. He goes, man, that's from 04 tour luggage that we lost on that tour. And I never saw it. I never saw any of it again.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. And I was just shooting the shit. I was like, fuck, man. First of all, thanks for getting back to me. I appreciate that. Second of all, do you want it? It does have your name on it. And he's like, no, it's cool, whatever. And I was like, any more details? I searched literally through thousands of photos to try and get one of him in it.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know, but dude, yeah, I remember that piece. It was sick. And then we lost luggage and that was in there. In 04, dude, 16 years later, it shows up in Canada.
Did he say it was lost luggage on a Canadian trip or no?
No, it was I looked up all their shows in 04, 05. They did a lot of festivals then. So it was just everything I go through sourcing is from the States anyway. So it definitely came up from the States, but it was just okay, well, that's sick. So that's just one of these pieces.
Totally. And you never know, who even knows what the fuck happens to lost luggage? They probably auction it off, right? Yeah. They probably literally auction it off just like you'd auction off a storage locker.
Yeah.
Because what the fuck, they legally can't just give it to their employees or start rooting through it. They got to get rid of it. So that's something that's never been touched on the show. Try to go find some fucking lost luggage auction or some shit.
Yeah, for real, man. I know.
I mean, you won't find a lot of vintage probably, but you might find some designer. That's for damn sure.
Some cool shit. Yeah. I don't know. That's the shit I love. I'm never going to see one of those again. It's so sick.
Dude, there is no other one of those.
There is no other one. It's it's worth whatever someone's willing to pay. Lori has another piece she made for will.i.am that's now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm like, all right, I'll hang on to this piece for a little, tuck it away and see what happens.
That is so cool.
Part of my portfolio, Drew.
There you go, buddy. Diversify.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you having me on big time, honestly. That was a good chat.
For sure. Thanks again, dude.
All right, buddy. Take care, eh?